On a bright September day in 2015, Beijing staged a spectacle that the world could not ignore. Thousands of troops marched in perfect unison through Tiananmen Square, tanks rumbled across Chang'an Avenue, and cutting-edge missiles rolled past under the gaze of President Xi Jinping. It was the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II, a solemn commemoration of victory over fascism. But the parade was also much more than remembrance. Xi's Victory Day parade was a carefully crafted message. It signaled that China had arrived as a military power, no longer content with silence or restraint. It was a challenge to America's dominance, and at the same time, a subtle but unmistakable signal to India about the shifting balance of power in Asia. As one observer noted, this was not just history, it was the future, paraded down Chang'an Avenue. The heart of the parade was China's military hardware. For the first time, Beijing unveiled its nuclear triad: the land-based DF-5C intercontinental missile, the road-mobile DF-61, and the JL series missiles for air and sea launch. This was a declaration of second strike capability, a signal that China could not be intimidated. Equally striking were the hypersonic and anti-ship missiles like the YJ-17, YJ-19, and YJ-20, weapons designed with a clear purpose: to target U.S. aircraft carriers in the Pacific. Alongside them rolled stealth drones such as the FH-97 Loyal Wingman, unmanned helicopters, and large underwater vehicles, symbols of a new era where AI and autonomous systems would shape the battlefield. The symbolism extended beyond the weapons. Standing beside Xi were Russian President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, a tableau of defiance against Western sanctions and criticism. Their presence reinforced the idea of a counterweight to US-led alliances. In stark contrast, Western leaders were absent. Most had boycotted the parade, underscoring the growing geopolitical divide. What was billed as a commemoration became, in effect, a declaration of alignment and opposition. The parade also told a story about history. By emphasizing the Communist Party's role in defeating fascism, Beijing sought to reinforce its legitimacy and cast today's strategic tensions as a continuation of past struggles. For domestic audiences, it was equally powerful, a display of confidence and unity at a time when China faced economic slowdown and a military leadership reshuffle. The message was clear: China was strong, resilient, and prepared to lead. The most obvious challenge was military. The DF-26 missile, with its range of 4,000 kilometers, was paraded prominently, putting U.S. bases in Guam within striking distance. This was the essence of China's anti-access/area denial strategy, A2/AD, to raise the costs of U.S. military intervention in Asia. Behind the scenes, nuclear parity loomed larger. By 2025, China's arsenal reached 600 warheads, with projections of 1,500 by 2035. This trajectory signals an intent to approach parity with the US and Russia, erasing the old assumption that China would always remain a minimum deterrent power. A Japanese defense white paper in 2025 bluntly stated that the military balance over Taiwan is rapidly tilting in China's favor. For Washington, the parade was a wake-up call that the strategic game in Asia had changed. The parade also had political consequences. Western nations' boycott highlighted fractures in U.S. alliances, exposing unease about Washington's leadership. At the same time, Beijing projected its alternative: peaceful internationalism, and harmony in diversity. Xi's message was that China was not seeking hegemony, but was determined to safeguard peace through strength. For many in the global south, this was compelling. The parade was not only a show of might, but also a demonstration of confidence in offering a different vision of world order, one not dictated by Washington or Brussels. For India, the parade was both a warning and a reminder. The numbers alone tell the story. China's defense budget, at $247 billion in 2025, with some estimates as high as $471 billion, is more than 3 times India's $75 billion. In manpower, China fields over 2 million troops compared to India's 1.45 million. In the skies, China has 3,309 aircraft, including 1,212 fighters, against India's 2,229 aircraft with 513 fighters. At sea, Beijing commands 754 vessels, including 3 carriers and 61 submarines, while India has just 293 vessels, with 2 carriers and 18 submarines. This imbalance was on full display in 2015, and by 2025 it had only deepened. For New Delhi, the parade was not just a commemoration, it was a reality check. Still, India was not without strategy. Analysts like Suyash Desai noted that some of China's showcased weapons were more tomorrow's arsenal than today's. Impressive, but not necessarily fully operational. India's decision to skip the parade while still attending the Shanghai Cooperation Organization (SCO) summit reflected strategic autonomy. At the same time, New Delhi strengthened ties with Japan and cautiously managed relations with both Washington and Beijing. As the diplomat observed in 2025, U.S. tariffs and strained ties were pushing India to widen its sphere of partnerships, including with once estranged countries like China. In other words, India saw the parade not only as a threat, but also as a signal that it could not afford to ignore Beijing's central role in Asia's future. Xi's 20th 15th Victory Day parade was more than a military celebration. It was a strategic performance, a deterrent to America, a message to India, and a reminder to the world that China was no longer a developing nation to be engaged, but a rising great power to be balanced. For the United States, the parade cemented the framework of strategic competition, the start of what many now call a new Cold War. For India, it underscored the military disparity and reinforced the urgency of modernization and careful diplomacy. And for the global order, the parade was a harbinger of a multipolar world. It showed that rising powers like China and India would no longer be forced to choose sides but could chart their own paths. As one Chinese scholar remarked after the event, parades are not only about the past, they are about the future we intend to build. In 2015, China announced that future with confidence. A decade later, the echoes of that day in Tiananmen Square are still reshaping the balance of power in Asia and beyond.